Hello, and welcome to the third webinar of the FY25 round of the Community One Stop for Growth. On behalf of the Haley Driscoll administration, we want to thank you for your interest in supporting and advancing economic growth throughout our state. My name is Pat Shannon, and I serve as the Community One Stop Coordinator at the Executive Office of Economic Development. The purpose of today's webinar is to guide you through the technical aspects of the One Stop. We'll walk through how to use the One Stop systems, including accessing the new expression of interest form, and navigating the IGX system to submit your full applications. So the best way to access both the expression of interest and full application for the first time is through the One Stop website. When you go to www.mass.gov/onestop, you'll see a table of contents at the top of the page. Here you'll see links to a number of great resources within the page, including both the expression of interest and full application.
So first, we'll start with the expression of interest. We've made some significant changes to the EOI for the FY25 round, most notably moving the EOI out of the IGX system and turning it into a simple web form accessed directly through the One Stop website. So we're going to start by clicking the expression of interest link here in the table of contents, which brings us down to our expression of interest section. At the bottom of the section, you will see a link in a box that reads "Get guidance about your project by submitting an expression of interest EOI." So we will click this link. So now we're on the expression of interest page within the One Stop website. So the page starts with an overview of the expression of interest, which we recommend reading through. And then you'll come across the actual EOI form. So the form starts by asking for some simple organization information. So we'll just say Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You select your organization type, and we'll say we're a public organization. The location of the organization. So we'll say Boston. So there's 10 location options show up per page. So it's sometimes easier just to search for the municipality. So we'll click that and select. Project contact name, we'll say Pat Shannon. One Stop Coordinator. One Stop at mass.gov, and we'll put in a phone number. All right, so now we'll fill out our project information. We're just going to call this Project 1, and now we'll pick a project location. So for some of our applicants, the project location differs from the actual organization's location, especially for those, excuse me, nonprofit and or for-profit organizations applying to the One Stop. So here we'll specify which community the project's taking place in. So here we'll just choose Amesbury. We'll select. Then we enter a project abstract. So this is a very simple overview of the project. You're limited to 500 characters. And so we'll just say this is a project to install new sewer infrastructure to support a mixed-use development. You're going to want to go into a little bit more detail than that, but again, it should be a very, very high-level short description. So next, we'll get into the project description. So this is a drop-down, and it shows the various project types or development continuum categories and project types available to that applicant. So since I'm a public entity and the project's within a housing choice community, I see these options, including the community-led housing production, which is only available to housing choice communities. If I was a for-profit organization, I'd only see options for rehabilitation of a blighted or underutilized property or the creation of collaborative workspace. So this list will differ depending on the organization type and as well as the project location to only show what the organization is eligible for. So in this case, we're doing infrastructure improvements for mixed use or commercial industrial space. And so now I'm asked a couple additional questions. So I chose the overall development continuum and project type. Now it asks me what best describes the work this funding would be used for. So I'll hit the drop down, and this is going to be a public infrastructure construction project. So I'll select that. It asked me an additional question specific to this category. So it's asking me if there's imminent private development identified, and I'll say yes. Now this asks me for a project budget. So I'm just going to say 900,000 and estimated completion. We'll say this will be completed in 1 to 2 years. I then just fill out a CAPTCHA to prove I'm not a robot and submit. So now I get a note saying that the expression of interest was submitted and that I should receive a EOI feedback report within 5 business days. You'll also see if you wish to submit a new EOI, please refresh the page. So if I refresh the page, the form will reappear. It's important to note that unlike last year, there's no limit to the number of expression of interest that any one organization can submit. So, you know, if you want to go back and get feedback on a different project, you're more than welcome to fill out the form again. So although there's no limit to the number of projects, you do need to create a new expression of interest for each project proposal you'd like to submit for feedback. So now we'll go back to the home page and access the IGX system. All right, so here we are back at the one-stop homepage. This time I'm going to go down to the table of contents and select full application. Just like with the EOI, at the end of the short full application section, there's a box with a link to request funding through the one-stop IGX application portal. All right, so now we're here at the IGX system landing page. You can also access IGX by typing eohed.intelligrants.com into your browser. We recommend bookmarking this page for easier access in the future. If your organization is new to the one-stop, you're going to want to register your organization. So you can do this by clicking the New Organization Register Here link, which will prompt a registration form to appear. This is where you'll enter all information about the organization, as well as your name and title. You'll need to enter a username and password for your account as well. I'll just note that in the organization information, you do need to include an EIN number. Once you fill out the form and hit register, your account will need to be approved by the one-stop team. Please be aware this may take 1 to 2 business days for your account to be verified and activated. If your organization is already registered in the IGX system, new users should be added by the organization's grant administrator. To add a new user, grant administrators should take the following steps. First, log to the IGX account. So now that we're in the IGX system, on the top right corner of the screen, we're going to click our name, and we'll see a dropdown, and we'll select Profile. Once we get to the Profile page, we're going to go to the blue menu on the left side of the screen and click Organization Members. Now we'll see a white box labeled Member Search, and we'll click the yellow plus sign on the upper right corner of the box where you'll see an add label pop up, and we'll click Add New User to Organization. So this will prompt another form to pop up, and we'll fill it out, enter the person's general information, name, title, etc., their contact information, and then we'll assign a role. So for any staff that will be working on a full application, we'll want to assign them as either a grant administrator or grantee staff, depending on the permissions that you want the user to have. So grantee staff can work on a full application, but will not be able to create or submit the document. The grant administrator is the only role that can both that can start and submit a full application. This role is intended for either the organization's chief executive or an authorized official that has authority to submit on behalf of the organization. Any external user that will be assisting on your applications should be assigned a consultant role. Like grantee staff, consultants will only be able to work on the full application, but will not be able to create or submit. Finally, in the security section, we'll enter a username and password for the new user. The password must contain 8 letters, including at least 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, and 1 number. After hitting save, the user's created, and an email will be sent to the email address provided on the form. At that point, the new user will be able to log in and change their password. All right, so now we're going to take a quick look at the IGX dashboard. So when you log in, you'll see 3 panels. If you're a grant administrator, you'll see an announcements panel, which just has some basic information about the round and about where to find information on within the panel. To the right, you'll have the Start New Document panel. So this is where you'll click this link to create a new full application. Again, this will only be available to grant administrators. And then down below, you'll have the My Documents panel. So this is where you find documents, you find your full applications after they've been created. So new this year, we actually have included the project name within the document name. I know sometimes it's difficult to discern which application's which if you have multiple going just based on the number. So now you can see here we have a little placeholder for the project name that you enter within the application. All right, so now we're going to actually create an application. So again, to create an application, you'll first click the one-stop full application link in the Start New Document panel. You'll see this pop-up show up and with just some agreement language. So read through it and click Agree to open the new document. And so when you get to the document landing page, first thing you should look at is on the left side of the screen, you'll have a menu that you can navigate. So the first section is forms. So this is how you'll get between the different forms within the application. So first, we're going to jump into the one-stop resources form. So we know that that there's a lot of information out on the one-stop website and elsewhere on the internet that applicants need to consume to fully understand the one-stop and be prepared for submitting their application. So we wanted to make sure that applicants had all necessary information in one place when they needed it most. So at any time when you're filling out your application, if you have questions about the process and you want to get a very quick answer, just click that one-stop resources page and you should be able to find what you're looking for. This page is completely informational only, and there's no actions required by the applicant in order to submit the application. All right, so now we're at Form 1, Applicant Information. This is where the applicant will fill out any information about the organization, including contact information and general description of the organization. So I would like to highlight question 1.3 to start. So this is where the applicant will select their organization type. It's very important to make the correct selection for your organization, as this will have an impact on the questions you are asked based on your organization's eligibility. Specifically, it will drive which types of projects your organization is eligible to apply for. So here I'm listing myself as a municipality. I've entered in all my contact information, a description of my organization. I get a question of whether this is a joint application between 2 or more entities. So if I were to say yes, I would list some basic contact information for the partner agency or entity. I will note this question, the joint application is reserved for formal agreements for basically to share the distribution of grant funds if awarded, and is not intended as a place to list project partners. So now I have a few other questions specific to public organizations. So it's asking about community housing descriptions. There's opportunity to express interest in pursuing um, different tools, economic development tools offered by the Commonwealth. And then because I selected Reading as the organization location and I'm a public entity, Reading is an MBTA community. So I'm asked a few additional questions regarding my community's compliance with the multifamily zoning requirement for MBTA communities. So here I can say, I'll just say I submitted my compliance, but I haven't received a letter of termination from HLC, and I do not anticipate any significant changes. If I were applying as a non-public entity, the questions asked would be a little bit different. So here I'll just quickly show for a for-profit. After organization description and joint application, I'm just asked about my organization certification. So I do not get asked any of the questions related to MBTA communities or the economic development tools that are offered for public entities by the Commonwealth. So I'm going to switch back to municipality. I'll save the form and we'll go on to section 2. So now that I've successfully saved the form, there's no errors. There's a check mark in the list of forms on the menu on the left. Now you can see that project information is available. So I will click into Form 2, Project Information. All right, so now we are on Form 2, Project Information. This is where the applicant will input all information related to the project and request for funding. In past years, applicants were forced to fill out several different forms with project information. You'd have a form for this project core information that's shared by all programs. You'd have a form that you had to fill out based on the development continuum category that the project fell within. And then for some public organizations in either housing choice or rural communities, you may have had to fill out an additional form specifically related to your community special designation if you wanted consideration for funding by either a housing choice grant program or the Rural Development Fund. There was also an additional form for optional attachments at the very end of the application. So this year we were able to consolidate those into one form. So anything related to the project will be entered into Form 2, Project Information. In the process, we're able to reduce a number of questions, including all of the community activation planning and planning zoning additional questions. So applicants submitting projects within those categories will only fill out the questions in the project core. All right, so we're going to start. We're just going to enter a project name. So we'll keep it simple and just say project name. And then we're going to enter a project location. So you can see there's a drop down with all 351 municipalities. For this project, we'll say it is in Everett, and then we're going to save the form. All right, so now that we save the form, I want to first draw attention to the attention box in the upper right-hand corner. So this is where the system flags any required questions that you have not answered. You can click the links for each flag to bring you to the question that needs to be answered. Once all these required questions are cleared, you'll see that a check mark appears next to the form's name after you save, and that means that you fully completed the form. So we're just going to hide this for now. You'll also see that this chart filled in. So you can see that project location Everett is a housing choice community, an MBTA community. It is not a rural or small town. It's in the Greater Boston EOED region, and Metropolitan Area Planning Council is the regional planning agency for the city. So as we go down the application, you'll enter a project abstract, just like in the expression of interest. And then you'll get to question 2.4. This is the single most important question in the application. This is where applicants are asked to put their project within a development continuum category, select a project type and a project focus. The answers provided here will drive the questions asked throughout the rest of the application and will largely determine which programs review the application. So for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to select a underutilized property rehabilitation project. You'll see that when you select the project type, a green pop-up appears saying the program that's most likely to review the application. In this case, I'm going to say we're focused on underutilized property construction. And then in some cases, the form asks you to select a sub-focus, so a more specific descriptor of the project. So here we'll say we're doing building stabilization or shell repair. Before I save the form, I'm going to just jump down to question 2.4a, housing choice consideration. Because I'm a public organization in a housing choice community and I selected a project type that is eligible for review by the Housing Choice Grant Program, I'm asked whether whether I'd like the project reviewed by the Housing Choice Grant Program. If I say yes, a series of questions will open at the bottom of the form specific to the Housing Choice Grant Program that I must answer to successfully submit the application and be considered by Housing Choice. If I select no, I'm foregoing those questions and also foregoing the opportunity to have my application considered by a Housing Choice Grant Program. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to say no. And now I'm going to save the form. It's very important that you save the form after answering question 2.4. All right, so now that I saved the form, the number of required questions has expanded. So the attention box has grown, but again, I'm just going to hide this. So now you see that there's this gray box that shows the programs most likely to review my application. If I had chosen Housing Choice, the Housing Choice Grant Program will appear here as well. And I can click these links to access the program websites and review the program guidelines. So as we go down the application, well, these are the questions that you're required to answer based on your selections above. So we have project overview with narrative scope of work. We have our grant funding request. I'll just pause here to note that the grant request is specific to just the amount of money that you're asking for from the Commonwealth in the form of a grant, not the total project budget, just what you're asking for funding. You'll also have the opportunity to indicate whether you're matching the project. If the applicant itself is providing match funds, you'll indicate the amount. If there's another organization providing funding for the project, you can enter that here. In both cases, you'll just describe the sources of funds. So other fund sources could be a developer providing contributions to the state, or I'm sorry, to the project, other state and federal grants that are providing funding. Your entries above will be auto-populated into this table here, which will show the total project cost. So this should be between the grant funding amount, applicant match, and funding from other sources, this should amount to the total cost of the project. So you'll enter some community descriptions, information about the project implementation. You'll have to answer a question about environmental sustainability and how you're considering climate change in the execution of the project. We have a new section for project outcomes. So you'll describe the anticipated outcomes, as was the case in past years, but now you're also asked to complete a table with project impacts as it relates to housing, employment, and business growth. So this table will change based on the type of project being proposed. However, all fields are required. So if your project, let's say, is just related to commercial growth or creating jobs, you can enter the number of jobs that'll be created, the amount of commercial square footage that's expected. And then if there's no housing components, you can enter just zeros in the housing section. So an entry is required in each field, but it can be 0 if it's not applicable. All right, so that wraps up the project core. So if you're submitting a planning and zoning or community activation placement project, your Form 2 will end right here. Site information is just all information as the section name indicates related to the site that the project's taking place. And so all site preparation, building, and infrastructure projects will need to complete this section. We do have additional questions about climate resilience as it relates to the project. So we have a question about whether the project will result in increase in impervious area, and then any building and infrastructure applications, except for collaborative workspace, will need to complete the climate resilience design standards report tool from resilientmass.org. So you'll click this link and it'll take you to the resilientmass.org website, and you'll complete the tool. Once you complete the tool, you'll get a report, a PDF report that you'll download and upload back up here. The report will have exposure ratings for the site in your project. So if you have a high exposure rating, there's sea level rise or storm surge or extreme precipitation, urban flooding, or ravine flooding, you'll have to explain how you're going to implement design strategies to mitigate the threat. Here we have building additional questions. So again, these are questions that would be an additional form in past rounds, but here they are in project information on Form 2. So these are questions, in this case, specific to underutilized property rehabilitation. So this will change based on the type of project that you are proposing. Since this was a construction project, there's some additional questions related to construction. If it was pre-development, I wouldn't be seeing this right now. And then we have our additional optional attachments. So this is where you can add any letters of support, any images, other partner letters that may not have been asked for when completing the application. So in order to successfully complete the form, we need to make sure we answered all these questions so that we could get this check mark and be ready to submit. For now, we're just going to go to Form 3, certification. So now we're on the certification, which is essentially a signature page stating that the applicant has authorization to submit the application on behalf of the organization. So I'm a public entity, so I'll say that the submission requires a board vote. If I say yes, I need to attach a copy of the vote for the certification. I'm going to say no. If I'm has a similar question for non-public entities, in this case, I'll say not applicable. I'll type my name, Pat Shannon, submit on behalf of EOED, and then I sign. So here I'll save the form again. And if I'm ready to submit, I'll go back to the blue menu on the left-hand side of the screen. I'm actually not able to submit right now because we're not in the submission period, but a submit button would be right here under the status options. I'd click submit, and I'd get a pop-up indicating that I successfully submitted the application. In this case, however, I wouldn't be able to submit because there's still questions to be answered on project information. So the form would direct me back to the project information section. All right, so now I'm back on the dashboard. Here you can see the application that we just started. I can sort by status date so I can see the most recent. So again, we're Everett. The organization in this account is actually called MassWorks. So it's the project location, organization name, and the project name. We just simply named it project name. So that's what you'll see here. So if I want to go back in and continue to work on the application, I'll just go back to the My Documents page, click this link, and it'll take me right back to the application. You'll also see that the status is in process. When the application submitted, the status will change to application complete submitted. And you'll know that you successfully submitted the application. So that does it for webinar 3. Thank you for taking the time to watch this webinar. Please visit mass.gov/onestop for more information on the FY25 round of the One Stop, including links to access the IGX platform and video recordings of all 3 webinars. If you have any additional questions related to the One Stop or the IGX platform, you can email onestop@mass.gov. Thank you very much.